Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wind Down Wednesday. We're so excited to chat with y'all tonight about saying no and setting boundaries. So grab whatever you need, and we'll be back here in about 30 seconds. All right. Rachel, I'm so excited to chat with you. How are you?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm so excited for this topic tonight because I feel like this is something that everyone really needs. I know we were just talking like we really need this too for ourselves.
I
This
mean, it's
is
it's
everything.
one of those things that nobody teaches you how to do.
No, no. It's not a part of our teacher prep program. It's not a part of like PLC groups or anything like that. It's just kind of like one of those things you figure it out or you don't. And it's hard in the meantime trying to navigate
Yep.
it all.
Oh my gosh. Well, and then we add the layer of being the multilingual educator on top of it, and it's that's even harder when you're potentially the only person in a building or in a situation to be called upon. So they
Yeah.
say, "Hey Carly, will you sit on our SIP team?" Sure. Hey Carly, will you be on the math committee? All right. Hey Carly, we really need multilingual representation on the ELA committee. But we need somebody on the science committee. And you're like, I don't have a like when am I supposed to do my own lesson plans?
Yeah, exactly. And it's wonderful. Like I always try and I think that's part of like why I always struggled in that scenario because I appreciated like the desire to have representation like and I was always so eager like I was like yes, like let me use this as an opportunity to advocate for those I serve. But at the end of the day or at the end of the week, you're on like 86 committees and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened?
Well, and then if you can balance, if you're saying yes to all those types of committees, that oftentimes means you're being pulled from your classroom or whatever your role is. And so I remember one year feeling like there was like a 4 week stretch where I felt like I was out of my classroom almost twice a week.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes.
like, I can't do that. Like, that's not good
No.
for me. It's not good for my students.
Exactly. Exactly. And at the end of the day, right? Like we're doing all this extra work, all this advocacy work for those we serve. So we actually have to like be present, like physically there, right? For those we serve. And it's really hard to do. And like we said, like we don't ever get told like it's okay to say no. It's so much. It's so much.
It's so, and then it's that, it comes back to some of our systems and educating of everyone around how do we all approach this work with a multilingual, multicultural lens. And I'm not the only one carrying it.
Yes, yes, yes. And Elise is joining us. She said, yes, I'm exhausted, but it's hard to stop.
Yes.
Like, speak the truth. Like that is absolutely, absolutely the case. And I would find myself like, so if I was approached, like sometimes it wouldn't even be someone approaching me. It was like kind of me demanding a seat. Like so
Yes.
it was a little bit of both of those things happening because I'm like, wait a minute, why is there not an EL presence or a multilingual presence on the gifted, matrix team? Because I want to make sure my students have access to that type of programming. Or like, hey, this district level decision is going to be made. Like, we need to make sure because this is going to impact our students down the road. But it's just, it's so much and so hard. And yeah, how do we start to then like build capacity and like ignite a passion for this particular student and all student groups really,
Yep.
so that the responsibility isn't just falling on one person or just one department.
Yes. And like I always felt too that like I wanted a seat at the table
Yeah.
because I was sick of our bilingual programming, our multilingual programming, being the second layer of like, well, I can't figure out our, our Spanish language arts curriculum until we figured out our English language arts curriculum.
Yes. Yes.
Or we can't figure out how to scaffold supports for students in the ELA until we have the base down, right? But we miss is in there.
You hit the nail on the head. That's like always like, well, we'll get to you. Just wait your turn. Like first we're going to plan it without your kids in mind at all. And then we'll get back to you. And like, we're going to call it a Band-Aid, right? And you're just going to tweak it for your kid. Like that's always like,
And that was one of my pet peeves. And I'm not going to call anybody out today, but at the same time, like I would get frustrated by doing the gen ed curriculum work and then being asked, well, now you translate it. So now I'm doing twice as much committee work. Yes. I'm still doing the work as the teammates on the committee to do the original development. And then you're asking me to translate on the side. I don't care that I get to fill out a timesheet and you're going to pay me. I'm still now doing double the work that everybody else is doing.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's a huge piece too. It's almost like a punishment for, having this additional language skill. And it just kind of,
And then when you are the person who did that work, then other people in the district will go, who did this? Who translated that? Me. I was the only one.
Yes, it was just me. It was just me.
I had no help. I don't know what to do.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Oh my goodness. So do you have is there a go-to phrase or what are your tips and tricks for helping yourself stay not overcommitted, or how do we start to get ourselves in a space, in a mental space, and being able to say to people no, I can't do this right now.
I think we have to develop some of that self-confidence in that I'm already doing a lot. And you know what? At the same time, even if you're on no other committees or you're not on anything, you're still allowed to say no. And, we're all in different seasons of our lives. Yes. And we don't, not everybody wants to share every single bit of their personal lives with their colleagues. And so I don't think it has to. I think we need to get more comfortable in saying, I don't have the capacity for this.
Yes. Yep.
And I felt that way at one point in a previous role as an administrator of trying to advocate for an additional support staff on my team and saying, I can do all of these little things, but I'm not going to do them as well as if I had some help where I could narrow them down.
Yes.
And so, I think it becomes more as I'd be happy to sit down, if a principal comes and says, hey, I need you on this committee too. And you remind them, well, I'm already on these two. Yeah. And I'd be happy to help talk through things with you.
Yeah.
And maybe give some recommendations of other staff members who might do well.
Yes. I think this would be a really cool opportunity. I was just having this conversation with this other staff member. This might fit really nicely into their professional goal that we were talking about. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I appreciate so much that you said, if my principal is the one approaching me, so many of us, I think I am still very much, I think I just always will be. I don't know if it's a generational thing or what, but I'm always nervous if I get approached, I must say yes, because then I won't if I say no, they'll think I'm not a team player or I'm not, doing whatever it takes for those I serve. So I think that's another thing too, is being able to say, this cannot impact my overall evaluation, because that's problematic. And I'm a human being before I am an employee in this, school district. But again, it's a hard balance. I recently, and I'll put it in the comments. So if you are joining us on Facebook or YouTube Live, you'll be able to see it posted right here. But this is a blog post that I put on my blog. I don't remember when. and it was about saying no. Advocates say
Mhm.
no. And I have always said, again, like, I want to push myself, I want to stretch beyond, I want to do all these things. But at the end of the day, like, if I'm not sleeping, or if I'm not like seeing my family, or if I'm not being able to just do my job that I was hired to do, and still have a little bit of my humanity at the end of the day, like, I'm going to reach burnout
Yes.
by October, and I'm not going to be of service to anybody. So it's a healthy habit to develop the ability to say no, so that we can say yes to other things.
Well, and it's said, and now I feel like we see this oftentimes discussed a lot around parenting,
Yeah.
around like
Yeah.
you're maybe not going to be the best parent you can be if you're
Yeah.
not giving your own self some attention and taking care of your body physically, mentally, right? And it's the same thing. Like, I'm not going to be the best teacher
Right.
if I'm not taking care of the students in front of me.
Yep.
And as much as we want to try to advocate for every student across the district, we have to remember that these kids who are in front of us deserve us just as much.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And another thing is, like, I wish I would have asked for help more. Or if I found myself during those seasons of being stretched really thin, I wish I would have had the language or the confidence to be able to approach somebody, whether it was a teammate or my boss or my evaluator or whoever, and just say, look, I need help. This is not sustainable. And even just like, even if we just had like a post-it and wrote down some of those words just to hold on to, and like practice saying them out loud in your car on the way to work, or like in the mirror in the morning, just practice every now and then. Practice that no.
But maybe that's giving me some thoughts around, as the district leader or your school leader, or however, wherever you're maybe kind of leading that team and seeking out these persons to represent and help you, whatever the committee could be.
Yeah.
How do we maybe even set up some systems that allow for somebody to put your name on the post-it and put it in my mailbox? It just says, I need help. I need more support.
Yes.
I can't do that one. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
And I think it's that thing too. I just did it. I just apologize for not doing, like, I don't have to apologize for that.
Right. We don't owe anyone an apology.
No.
We don't owe anyone, like you said, we don't owe anyone an explanation. No is a full sentence. Like, no, period. No, thank you. Done.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Well, and did you ever feel too, as the person who was potentially on a lot of groups and committees, that you felt like everyone looked to you as the one and only expert? Heck, I feel like that every day in this job still. But sometimes I'm not the only one who's learning to navigate this before, right? Like, you asked me to be the multilingual representation on your math curriculum committee. Well, I've never written curriculum before, let alone curriculum that's appropriate for multilingual learners. I'm going to need some support in that.
Yes. I think that's huge too. Like, I can't be the end all be all, like, like voice or, resource. Like, we should be, like we always say, like, we want to triangulate data. Like, we need multiple layers. And I think another thing, I wanted to mention this too, like, when these either school committees or district committees are formed, and either we're pushing for a spot at the table, or we have been voluntold, or we have been politely requested, however it might be, and we're just not able to take that on, we can still advocate for our students and families while not serving on the committee. We can utilize like the feedback loop that is like the perpetual feedback loop. Like, we can always go and contact and sit with those folks who are a part of the work and a little more involved, and ask our questions, or like offer some guidance or share some resources. We can still advocate, just in a different way. We don't have to be on the committee or on that team.
Well, and then I think we need to be strategic from a leadership perspective of when asking, staff members to serve on these types of committees. Like, where do I need my heavy hitting, like, advocacy in that moment? It's probably not on building committee.
Right. Right.
Like,
It's very true. Yep. Yep. And like, I think school culture is like one of those things that is just kind of like it waxes and wanes, right? So there might be moments where you're like, you know what? I think we're in a really good place right now, or like, in a place where I can like be okay taking my pause and my step back here. And it doesn't mean I'm quitting the work or like I'm not, gonna still advocate. But I am gonna go ahead and step back a little bit.
yes.
I
And,
want to
and
share. Oh, go ahead.
I'm thinking times of year, like, don't ask a multilingual teacher to do a little extra in the months of January and February. And then if they're an intermediate teacher or middle, like, don't ask them for the rest of the year. Like, we're testing, like, and I can't say yes while I'm trying to organize all my access tests.
Right, exactly. Or if I'm trying to organize all of the testing schedules and all the accommodations and all the locations and all the retakes, I'm trying to manage all that and I'm not being supported in that season. It's going to make it really hard for me to say yes or take on anything additional. I want to share. So Laura Gardner, she is like the founder and CEO. She has this company called Immigrant Connections. And I want to share, and I'll link it in our comment section, but she has this post. And it's got all of these like red flags. And so I love how she laid out the post. I think it's a great read. But it's like, what does it say? You're an EL teacher with boundary issues when, and she lists out 10 red flags. And I'm like, ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Like I can identify like certain moments of my teaching career where I'm like, ooh, that one is. I see it.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of this goes, it's us as individuals being confident in saying no and recognizing all the things. Maybe we need to list it out before we say yes. Of like, what else am I doing? Like, I need to review my list before I can say yes. And you know what? You might not have to review. Like, it might just already be in your head, and you're like, it's a hard no this time.
Yeah.
But and maybe it's something where we're able to say no, but say this. I can't join that committee right now, but please ask me again in the future. Like, don't just push me off.
Yes, exactly. I love that.
And I think we have to build up the culture of our school community as a teaching, group of teachers, so that we trust each other enough. Because I remember having those feelings of, well, I'm the one that knows everything.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody else does too.
Exactly. Yep. Amen. Maybe I am the EL teacher, but this teacher next door, like, she's got some really great experience doing this and this, like, and I'm learning so much from her. Yeah, absolutely. Looking towards, beyond our titles and looking at, everybody's varied experiences, varied levels of expertise in different topics. That's huge. And I want to mention this resource too, just because I mentioned it in my book. In chapter 10 of my book, I talk about one of my gazillion rock bottom moments because I was so burned out, because I didn't ask for help, and because I was stretched way too thin. But this is a really, really wonderful resource. So this is the Educator's Matchbook, and this is written by Mandy Freilich, and it's like a nice pairing. So she has several books, like so many books. And let me see the name of. Okay, so she's got The Fire Within, Reignite the Flames, Divergent EDU. So this is like a nice pairing. But I really love this. This is like an actual workbook. So you can like write in it and like use it as a workbook. Like, I'm such a geek though. Like, I'll use the transparent sticky notes and write on top instead because I'm a geek. But she talks about like what burnout is and what like just fatigue is. And then like what is demoralization, and walking through some of these tools. I'm like, whoa, like, and sometimes being able to name something brings me a sense of comfort. Like, oh, wait, this is actually beyond burnout. This is demoralization. This is different. So I need to like almost like treat it in a different way. So she has fantastic resources. So I'll link that resource in the chat as well, because it's a really, that one has really helped me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, it makes me think too that like we don't, as an educator of multilingual learners, as the so-called school-based expert potentially in a building, I still don't have a magic formula that I can bring to the table.
Yes. Yep.
At the end of the day, we're still talking about individual human beings who, like, every kid is different. Every language learner is different.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. And so our friend here, she shares, I haven't even finished week 1. I'm already feeling it. Oh, yes.
And that's like, this is the time of year where like we're just getting inundated with everything. And if if you've got other things going, like we're not leaving the classroom and going straight home sometimes. I gotta stop at the store. I got a sporting event to head to. I got a doctor's appointment. Like at some point we gotta say no somewhere.
Yes. So if you are watching this, we would like to challenge you. Write out like 3 different ways for you to say no. Everyone's different in terms of like what they're comfortable communicating to different people. And maybe it depends on who the person is asking, but we would challenge you, like, grab a Post-it and write out 3 different ways that you could say no to something. And Jen Manley, she's a really cool follow on Instagram. She talks, her handle is @strategic classroom on Instagram. And I believe she's on TikTok too. I might be wrong, but I'll look and I'll link her Instagram. But she talks about this idea of scripting. And I've heard of scripting from like administrators, like, just different like messages that you would send like at different parts of the school year. So like a welcome back email and like, oh, testing season's coming. Here's my, kind of like a script that I would send out to staff. So that is one script that I would encourage everyone to like work on today or work on tomorrow.
Now, if anybody's like me, the script needs to have like, it only needs to be like 2 sentences, and then it needs to have a hard period. And my Post-it note of my script needs to say, stop talking now. Like you don't have to keep giving an explanation. Nobody, like, just stop.
Yes. And don't feel guilty either. Don't feel guilty saying no. Saying no, I hope that when you say no, you feel a sense of empowerment. I hope you feel a sense of, I'm saying no to this so that I can say yes to this. And I hope you can like feel real good about that. Like you do not have to be saying yes to everything. If you're saying yes to everything, you're going to have nothing left for you and for your kids.
What you say yes to is your individual business. Mm-hmm. If you're just saying yes because your mental capacity has been reached, that's to me just as equal as the person who's working on their master's degree right now.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what our reasoning. And I think I tend to be that person who needs to over-explain every single decision. And
I do the same thing.
At the end of the day, I don't need to know. Like they don't need to know that, and I don't need to explain that.
Yes. Like we feel almost like we owe them. We don't owe them an explanation. Just like we wouldn't expect them to they don't have to unload all their rationale. And like I just the guilt.
And you're right. I mean, Martha's right though. That ownership of our babies, and they are our babies. When they enter our room to when you run into them 20 years later.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Forever our babies. I want to share one other resource that has absolutely helped me. So Lindsay Titus, She has a podcast. She also published a workbook. She's got also like these affirmation cards. She's like a powerhouse of inspiration, but she also helps teachers like work on like almost like personal development. So again, like saying no and setting healthy boundaries, because this makes you a more well-rounded human being. So I linked her podcast there. But she just has so many good nuggets of like, oh, like, and she says it in such a way that it like feels like like I could do that. Like, this is great. So I would encourage y'all to check that out, because it's a really good podcast to tune into.
Awesome.
A lot of good resources there.
Yeah, I think we just need some like teacher t-shirts that are like it's a take on 1992's Dare shirt with a just say no.
Yes. In fact, now I'm going to write this down, because I'm going to make a little Canva infographic, and I'm going to say, just say no. And I'm going to quote you, Rachel. And let's put it on our socials today.
Yeah.
Because I think that's huge. Just say no. And we got to encourage each other. And can we follow that up with like, when you overhear a colleague say no to something, or say no thank you to something, give them a high five, give them a hug, celebrate that, and be like, yes. Because again, when we see other people doing it, it gives us permission, right? To like, when those moments happen for us, like, I'm also, for this other opportunity that's going to happen, 3 months from now, it's okay for me to say no.
I mean, principals and directors might not be liking us this year if we're telling everybody to say no, but we've got your own like just health and wellness in mind. And
that's right. Absolutely.
It's not easy.
I'm trying to see if I have a my advocacy script link. Okay, I think I do. Okay, so I'm going to link this in the comments too. This is like my little take on scripting for the school year. So the resource that I just shared, there's like those moments where you might need to request a principal or director or coach or coordinator to like co-sign an email, or you really need them there at a meeting, or the meeting gets derailed and things escalate or whatever. But the sixth slide on that is practice saying no. So I wrote down one sample of something you might say when you need to say no. But again, like the when you're doing any type of like scripting like that, that's like a starting point. So take it, customize it, right? But have your own script kind of ready to go, because in the moment, you might just be like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, this, and don't let people manipulate you either, because that's the other piece of this.
Yes, and be okay with saying, I need time to think about that, because you asking me to serve on another committee when I'm in the hallway transitioning my students from PE, like, it's not the appropriate time for me to process what's going on.
Yes. And I think like allowing yourself, like, I'll get back to you in 3 business days with my decision. That way I can really see if I can give this opportunity the attention it needs. Yeah, like 3 business days, friends. Don't say yes in the moment.
Because I feel like we have like a list of like tips in the saying no. Write a script. Don't say yes in the moment. Don't apologize.
Okay.
Don't give an explanation.
Use a script.
And now I actually have to try this later on this year.
Me too.
I think we're going to need a follow-up, Carly, of like later on. Have you said no to anything
yet? Yes. And actually, that's another good tip, is like schedule a follow-up check-in with yourself. And like people always say that, like, but I will say anytime I'm like at a workshop or trying a new strategy or doing a book study or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I really want to hold on to this, I go into my Google Calendar and I say like 3 weeks out, 6 weeks out, like, I'm going to check in with myself on this date at this time for 5 minutes and say, am I actually doing this? So I would encourage y'all So
Okay.
you have 2 challenges now, y'all. You've got write down 3 different ways to say no. And then the second challenge is put a date in your calendar, maybe the end of October, when all the benchmarking data is happening, right? Like intervention things are getting set up, all of those things that happen. And check in. How am I doing with my no?
Yeah.
All right. So we got follow up.
Ooh.
Man, this is a lot of tips. I think I feel empowered. I feel
Yeah.
I feel better.
I'm ready to say no.
I'm ready to say no. That's right.
What's am I going to be to my husband?
Yes, exactly. No. All right. Well, this is great. Rachel, our time always goes so fast, but thank you so much for chatting with me tonight. This was so wonderful.
Always a pleasure.
That's wonderful. All right, y'all. We will be back next week for another episode of Wind Down Wednesday. Good night, everyone.